Hey y'all, welcome to Paige's Perspective, where I help you find your inner strength to cope with life. I see more people with anxiety than ever before, and it's a normal emotion. We all have it, but when we're so anxious over everything or even about things that aren't something to make us anxious about, it can become a problem. So I recently read an article by Freya India on Substack that inspired me to do this podcast because she put things into words on how I feel about anxiety and values and all that fun stuff. I will link it in the show notes. I am not a writer. I have a really difficult time articulating the way I feel and how I live, and I really wish that you could be in my head for just a day and you would know exactly what I'm trying to say. But how many times have you been told to, set boundaries, love yourself, be you, tell yourself you love you, do what brings you joy, blah, 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 all this stuff. It's not that simple, and it doesn't necessarily work because self-love and self-respect are earned, not given. We can't just think ourselves into right acting. We have to act ourselves into right thinking. We don't just wake up and say, I love me for me. It's an action and it's earned. In order to love and respect ourselves, we must have values that we live by. These are things that guide us to help us make decisions and act in ways that we can be proud of. It's a sense of accomplishment. If we don't have guidelines on how we live, we will most likely become lost and confused and unable to make even simple decisions. So Matt used to call me moral oral, as if it were a really bad thing that I have morals. I've always had strong values, and that's what keeps me living how I want to live. I go against the grain a lot. I question all the rules because I like to go by my own compass. And strong women have strong values. When I'm not living by my values, I get wonky. This is why self-love and self-respect are earned. If we aren't living by our values, we won't respect ourselves. We won't love ourselves until we act like we do. Not feel, act. Love is a verb. Do the things that we want to do to make us who we want to be. Self-care. Self-development. These are about becoming a better person. It's not about the self-indulgence. It's about acting and living by our values. And we need values to help guide us through life. It's our inner compass. This isn't necessarily what society, religion, or experts have told us to value. It's something within us. We want to blame our childhood, our partners, our environments on our anxiety, but maybe the reality is we have a lot of anxiety because we aren't living by our values. Sure, we have some toxic value systems from our upbringing that may have fucked with us. But as adults, guess what? We get to change our values. We are allowed to pick our own values. We get to question our values. That's the beautiful thing about being human. We don't have to align with all the values we were conditioned to be aligned with or what society tells us to be aligned with. We get to choose ourselves. But let's just break down some simple values because let's be real. Many of us don't know what the hell our values are. We have a module on this topic in our program, but it's something I could talk about. I could talk on this for hours. I could have a freaking workshop on this, but I know that the word is super overused. I get it. And I'd love to come up with a new fucking word for it. But for now, I'm using values. So we've been consumed with living by other people's values that we lose touch with our own. But the good news is you can always get back to your own values or pick your own values, and you can reevaluate your values at any moment. Shout out to the independently strong wheelies going through the course and joining the Wednesday meetings. We had a discussion on this very topic of living by our values, and I was just so happy to have a conversation surrounding growth and seeing where they are changing and finding themselves again. It's a beautiful thing to witness, and if you aren't part of it, jump in. I am a firm believer in our message and program. It is truly changing lives. Shameless plug here, go to independentlystrong.com and use code WHEELIE75 for a discount. The program includes a licensed therapist, plus meetings on Wednesdays with me and or Matt, growth-oriented topics similar to Paige's perspectives, and peer discussions. It's full of amazing, strong people. Okay, back to the topic. When we don't live by our own values or act in a way that truly reflects what we believe in, we begin to lose ourselves and what we stand for. So this poses a question. Are you living by your values? You may be asking others to live by your values, but are you doing it for yourself? Do you act on your values, or do you do what's popular? Do you blame others when you go against your values? This all goes with what we can and cannot control in our lives. So let's break out some just basic everyday values we may not be living by and how we can change that. All right. I'm just going to go through some like super simple basic things, not deep shit, but it's important because you can start small. You can start with the simple things to help you live a life that aligns with your values. So recycling. All right, guys, I don't like paper plates. I use real kitchen utensils as much as I can so that I'm not putting a lot of extra trash into the world. And when I find myself ordering DoorDash too much, I find that I'm not living by my values because it's so much trash. Yeah, it's easy to order food and make our lives a bit easier, but does it make it better? Easy does not equal better. It may save time cooking and doing the damn dishes, but it goes against what I value. And when it goes against my value, I feel wonky. I feel like I'm not doing what I really should be doing. I begin to feel as though I'm like doing something that doesn't align with how I truly feel. That's kind of a red flag for me that I need to change something. Okay, personal environment. Do you ever feel overwhelmed because your home is a disaster, or maybe your office is a disaster, or just your environment, your bedroom, your bathroom? Well, it's possibly because you aren't living by your values, and that's why you feel overwhelmed. You may value a clean, organized space, but you've become so overwhelmed, you just don't do it. And then it becomes even more overwhelming because you're not living by your values. You know how it feels after you do those dishes that have been sitting there longer than needed? It's this feeling of accomplishment and clarity. That's the feeling we get when we live by our values. That's the feeling we get when we are authentic and allowing our values to guide us. Hold on to that feeling and use it as a motivator to get shit done and live how you want to live. So health is another example. Do we value health? I would say most of us do, but do we act like it? You know, eating nutritious foods, moving our bodies, taking care of ourselves mentally and physically. If not, we may be anxious and overwhelmed because we aren't living by our value of health. It seems as though society has conditioned us to not value our health because food is thrown around everywhere. It's around parties. It surrounds like family gatherings. I mean, there are so many addictive ingredients in so much of the food that we eat, so we can buy more of it. But I challenge people to go against the grain. Live by what you truly value. Just like we can't change the bar scene or the fact that restaurants serve alcohol, we can control how we consume these things and not blame society for why we don't do it. This is living by values. Of course, there could be changes that should be made on a society level, but we need to do it in our homes. You can do it in your homes. We can't sit around and wait for society to change. It starts with us and us making the change. But these are basic, everyday, random values, right? Like many of us value honesty, family, growth. But sometimes we have these basic values like these that we can be intentional about. You know, it's something that we look at every single day that we're like, all right, am I living by my value here? It's not easy to live by our values. It's not. We'd love to just sit on ass and do what brings us joy, but those things are temporary relief, and there's a time and place for them. We become familiar with not living by our values that it becomes difficult to start living by them. And it can feel overwhelming. It can feel unattainable. It can feel like a lot of effort, which it is. But shifting our perspective to understand it's a necessary effort for thriving, damn, that is huge. Big things can happen from those small changes and just by shifting our thoughts. In order to love ourselves and have respect for ourselves, we must act. We must learn to live by what guides us. And in order to teach our children solid values, we must show and lead by example. Our kids need guidance, not dictation, guidance, allowing them to make mistakes, but guiding them on life's values. What they learn from us is going to take them into adulthood. So it's up to us to lead the way by basically practicing what we preach. So ask yourself today, if you're overwhelmed, if you feel anxious, what values are you not living by? Even if you feel as though you're in a great place mentally, ask yourself the same question. Is there anything you can work on that helps you live by your values? A bit of a deeper question that you might want to journal about and reflect on. If honesty is a value of yours, Are you living honestly, authentically? Ask yourself these important questions. If you enjoy these episodes and want to support our mission, we've joined Patreon under TWFO. We've had people ask us how they can support, so we decided to get in on Patreon. It's awkward putting this out there, but we spend a lot of time creating content to help others navigate the challenges of life, and we can provide more and better quality content when we are able to spend even more time on this project, which means having more support. We appreciate all of you. Thank you so much for being listeners. That's all I have for this week. Until next time, I'm Paige. Bye.